And that is why we love bowl season. Welcome on into SEC Unfiltered Postgame Show. He's Dave Shumate, I'm Cole Thompson, and we break down everything that we saw in Nashville. Missouri, M-I-Z, one last time, double-digit win season, 27-24 win over the likes of Iowa. Real quickly, make sure that you like the video, hit the ring notification down below, and of course, subscribe to the channel because we talk college football every single day. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Make sure that you follow Dave at Mach 10 Sports, me at Mr. Cole Thompson, and check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. This postgame show is brought to you by our friends over at PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com and use the promo code SECU at sign up for a $50 instant play with your first $5 plus lineup. Ladies and gentlemen, college football season might be coming to a close, but college basketball is right around the corner. We have conference games ahead. What better way to go ahead and spend some money, win yourself a little bit of cash by going to prizepicks.com, use the promo code SECU, $50 simply on signing up. Dave, I don't care that this team was overrated. I don't care that people are talking about Missouri not living up to expectations with a lackluster schedule. I don't care that the offense didn't do its job in the bigger games against Alabama, against South Carolina, against a team like Auburn, or you can even throw in Texas A&M. Here's what I care about. They finished 10-3, back-to-back 10-win seasons for Eli Drinkwitz. Brady Cook goes out a champion. They get a win against a stellar defense headlined by a Kirk Ferentz-led squad. They get a significant victory in the Music City Bowl. It was a great game. It had everything. We were excited. It was entertaining. And the best part of all is they're going to finish the year ranked inside the top 20. What a year for Eli Drinkwitz. What a way to go out on top if you're Brady Cook. And more importantly, what a way to gain that type of momentum heading into the offseason if you are the Tigers.
No, 100%, Bear. I mean, yeah, you can say what you want about them being 10-3, but they are 10-3. I mean, I think that's stuff. I think that's conversation for the offseason. I mean, give them their credit, give them their flowers tonight. Happy for a guy like Brady Cook. It's a guy that in today's college football, you don't see a lot. That, I mean, he said it. He grew up, it was a dream as a kid to go play at the University of Missouri, be a Tiger. Glad he put together back-to-back double-digit win seasons, 11-win season last year with the Cotton Bowl, and then topping it off with a 10-3 season today with the Music City Bowl win over Iowa. So I'm happy for Brady Cook. Interesting. I mean, it's always funny, though, these games, but we always have these narratives we think it's going to be low-scoring, and they clear the over in the first half.
I say in the nearly the first quarter, they cleared the over in. It was fantastic.
I mean, now, special teams helped contribute to that, but still, I mean, our boy CP, Chris, he took the under. But, no, I mean, it just goes to show you never know. We all have our own narratives going into these bowl games, and sometimes they live up, sometimes they don't. They throw in these wacky, random midweek games that keep us – when people question, hey, well, what's the point of bowl season? Today's the one. It was a good, fun football game. Had some penalties at the end, but, dude, that was a fun to watch.
I'm not going to get into when we talk about the future of bowl eligibility. I'm not going to get into the Cam Ward situation at the Pop-Tarts Bowl because we all have our differing opinions. Here's what I care about. Brady Cook is a guy that lives, eats, and breathes Mizzou football. That is somebody who has said, I want to be a part of the MIZ culture since he was in high school. He goes to the program, he sits, he waits for his opportunity. He has a terrible first year. There's questions if he is the long-term answer, gets to 11 wins, comes on back for another year, and he wants to represent his program one more time. Went and balled out after getting hurt against the likes of Auburn in the in that matchup down at homecoming. Comes on back, plays off of Percocets, plays off of sheer determination and probably a little bit of adrenaline to put himself in a great position and get that signature win. Wants to go ahead and close out his season. You watch his other players in the history opt out of bowl games, and he stays in for 4 quarters. The defense delivers. Death row, as he likes to call it. Stepped on up in the second half. 3 points allowed, 122 yards of offense. And I got to give a lot of credit to what this Iowa team is, because Iowa for years has been known as just a program that is underwhelming offensively and great defensively. They came out with a solid game plan. They came out and delivered a really good first half. But the adjustments made by Corey Batoon's unit, one of the more slept-on bases in the SEC for 2024, really stepped on up. They gave the opportunity. And how about Blake Craig? I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. Dave, I've never seen a program like Mizzou consistently punch out kickers that are draining 50-yarders, and you can almost guarantee it's straight to the bank. That's why you love bowl games. That's why you love these type of matchups.
Yeah, drilled the 51-yarder and the
56-yarder too.
Yeah, no, Corey Batoon, they did play well in the second half. I think ultimately, mean, our guys at Iowa over there, all due respect, I love Kirk Ferentz and them, but I mean, you start to get a little limited when you're on your third, fourth string quarterback. Whenever Brendan Sullivan kind of came in, I mean, he's kind of the quiet, like 3A, 3B here rolling into it. What did he finish with yards wise?
I think he finished with 120
yards passing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Missouri in the second half, I mean, you only gave up 3 points. That's really against air. You'd be fired up against that. So, no, some things you took from, I thought Toriano Pride bounced back. He had a big missed tackle.
Thought he had a really big-time game.
Well, I mean, he missed a big-time tackle. I wouldn't go big-time game with him. I mean, he had a big tackle on third down, but he bounced back and had the pick 2 series later, I think, or a couple plays later, actually, where it kind of helped get them the football back and secure Missouri the lead that they never relinquished after that. So it's fun, bounce back. Give Missouri's offense credit in the second half. I mean, they only scored they scored 13 points, but again, you were down your top 2 weapons. Obviously, one you knew going into the game. Just a lot of mix up. Brady Cook getting everyone lined up, getting guys like Marquise Johnson where they didn't know where to line up, what they were supposed to be doing. Guys like Joshua Manning. So that's where you love to have the senior there and it meaning something to him to finish it off well. So that's what I'll really take from this game. Really nothing going into next year. I mean, I think Missouri does need to improve the wide receiver unit a little bit, but just really happy for Brady Cook. That was fun to see a guy that truly loves his school, finishing it out the right way. Had a pretty solid day. I mean, 18 for 32, 287. Again, if it's a big donut in the INT category, I'm always pretty fired up about that.
Yeah, 54 yards on the ground, too. Picked up a couple of first downs with his legs. Did a lot. The only thing that you could really say was an overall down part from the play calling was the inability to get the ground game rolling, whether it was with Marcus Carroll, whether it was with Jamal Roberts, Nate Noel. And you figure that at least at some point they'd be able to. Like Eli Drinkwitz said after the first quarter, we have got to get somebody besides Brady Cook to start moving the football. Here was the best part, though, Dave. They really didn't have to, because when Cook had the ball in his hands, he was getting positive yardage. When your quarterback is leading your team in rushing, you're doing something right. Now, I'm not saying averaging 2.7 yards a play is sporadically successful, but it is something that I can at least say, well, against a very solid defense headlined by Kirk Ferentz. Death taxes Iowa always delivering on the defensive front. You're able to still do enough to put yourself in positive formations play after play. And then the passing attack really stepped on up. Marquise Johnson had a really, really good game when he wasn't getting flagged for false starts, when he wasn't getting flagged for the illegal shifts. Like, besides that, there was a lot to like about him and his future, finishing with 122 receiving yards. Really stepped on up in the second half also when Theo Weiss Jr., who I was excited to see have a breakout game, kind of prove to the world how talented of a player he was opposite of Luther Burden, leaves in the second half when it comes to the shoulder injury off the targeting call. That wasn't a targeting call. We can get into that in a moment. I feel like that he is guaranteed his role at some point in this offense next year. I don't know what it is exactly. The vertical threat, wide receiver too, but there is a role for him. Throw in Kevin Coleman, the wide receiver that they connected and they got from Mississippi State, one of the more slept on playmakers in the SEC this past year. That's your 1-2 combination. I do agree with you on one thing. If there is a way for you to add in somebody that can be that consistent number 3 to where you're not worried about Joshua Manning, where you're not worried about potentially adding in a guy such as Daniel Blood, or you have to worry about Jordan Harris as your tight end, you're going to be able to, I think, be in a really good spot. Bo Pribula is not coming into a situation to where he's going to be barren and the cupboard's going to be empty. He's going to have some weapons out of the backfield. He's going to have some newcomers at wide receiver and some veterans back in. I do think that Marquise Johnson did show you today that there is more than meets the eye than just him being a vertical threat. Because I remember watching him in that Murray State game in week 1. And the fact that he was able to fly the way that he did, I figured, okay, vertical threat. There's a little bit more to him than just that.
Yeah. No, yeah. I don't think it's going to be the top they had this last year. I don't think it's going to be Luther Burden. I don't think it's going to be Theo Weiss. It's going to have to be more of a committee. It could be that year. I don't know if you have a true number 1. Because, again, Marquise Johnson's fine. I mean, you saw some things today that were high.
I think Kevin Coleman's number 1 personally, but still.
Yeah, I think it's a committee approach. Again, that's fine. Not every football team has to have a wide receiver 1, folks. If you can make it by a committee, like I always say, kind of a basketball team, people understand their roles. That's fine. It doesn't have to be a clear-cut number 1. And I think as we stand today after this game, that's where I kind of feel like Missouri kind of is rolling into this. Like, it's kind of going into next year. I'm sure they'll add an addition in the spring window from a wide receiver standpoint. But I think right now I'm more by a committee approach. Would that be better? I don't know. I think Luther Burden's production was down compared to what people were expecting heading into the year.
From this year? Yeah, I would say so. At least from the start of the year. The thing that I really can appreciate, though, is that everyone understood when we had to step up once the OEs went out. And give a lot of credit to Brady Cook also, just putting the ball in the right place. There was only 2 or 3 overthrows for my money. The rest were really right on the money when it came to connecting. Drop passes from Manning, just pass from Johnson. There was the third down conversion to Lee, the tight end. And you got to realize that he had been playing without his top 3 receivers in this game for the entire second half. And then Theo Wees was very limited in the second quarter on because of Luther Burden was out. No Brett Norfleet in this game. He was a really big time threat inside the red zone throughout the Tigers, throughout the regular season. So the fact that he was able to kind of respond, put himself in a great position, build that relationship with some of these younger guys, and let Mizzou figure out who they were and what they're going to be next year, I thought was really beneficial. It's a way that you can say Brady Cook, once again, is helping out his team and putting them in a great position to know what we have to target, what we have to bring in, what we have to go ahead and add, and also what we think that we have going into next year. It's an overall, I think, really good plan of emphasis.
No, I agree with you. I fired up. I'm glad they got the win. It was a good win for the league today too, because they're about kind of in the same range of the league a little bit. So good win for the league there. I don't really have much to add from that perspective.
It's also a benefit because of, think about the way that Texas A&M closed out the year with 4 losses in the 4 losses in the last 5 games. On top of that, you also throw in they had the lead against a Big Ten squad. Their defense played prevent and unfortunately didn't prevent USC from scoring. Your defense stepped on up. That big 4th down call. You felt like Iowa was getting rushed. They had a timeout left. They could have called a play. And for Corey Flagg to make the play that he did, understanding they're going to go up tempo, I got to go just as fast. Heat-seeking missile to deliver that hit on 4th down, get the ball back to his offense. That really is, I think, the entire emphasis of what you think of Mizzou, especially when we talk about them throughout the year. Because think about this for a second, Dave. The game might have been a perfect synonym, a symbolism of what was 2024. Kind of a slow start, back and forth, wondering what was going to happen. You closed out the season. You close out the second half really strong. Your defense delivers. The version of Mizzou that we saw toward the season's end, when they played against Arkansas, when they played against South Carolina, when they played against Oklahoma, that was one that where, 10-3, it's still somewhat underachieving when you look at your schedule. But that's one that we could buy into. They're a top 25 team. They're a team that's going to make some noise in 2024. They're a team that actually is representing the SEC. And that was the game. First half, you allowed Iowa to kind of get on out. They get the big 101-yard kickoff return. They go ahead and they pull a 14-7 lead. You're trailing at the half. You're able to kind of go ahead and pull your way back in. Craig, your kicker is able to, Craig is making big-time kicks. And then here you are. You're sitting at 10-3. Your defense gets another big-time stop. Lo and behold, you're going to finish off the year with double-digit wins for the 8th time in program history.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, you summed it up there, brother. I mean, it's about it. More kind of looking ahead now. Again, I don't take a lot from these games. A lot of scrimmaging kind of deal to me. I would say Missouri needs to go add some guys from the receiver, like I mentioned. They need to go add some guys on the offensive line, and then they need to go plug some holes on the defense. And then, I mean, is it going to be fair to Bo Prabula? We're going to be we're going to be comparing him to Brady Cook. So that'll be interesting from that perspective. I don't know if he'll live up to that.
Do you feel like, though, right now, because of what you did to bring in Bo Prabula, he is going to be the guaranteed starter, or because of there is still so much unknown with him and what you have with Sam Horn, what you have with Matt Zollers, the 4-star coming on in, what you may even have with Drew Pine? Okay, we got with Drew Pine, but still, you get my point. That it's going to be a quarterback battle. And the fact that you have multiple guys that maybe you believe in keeps Mizzou in a really good spot going into next season for potentially a 3rd consecutive 10-win year underneath Eli Drinkwitz.
What's like Nick Saban used to say when he was in the NFL and why he hated to be in it. And it's getting that point in college now. The guys who they're paying the most get more the benefit of the doubt because you're paying for something, you want to use it. So I'm sure Drink's going to say all the right things through the spring, probably potentially through fall camp, that, hey, it is a true healthy quarterback competition. I think they're going to give Bo all the opportunities in the world. As you are bringing that guy in to be your guy. But I think also at the same time, it's got to be talked about. You have to bring in some weapons around him. Like, I mean, you look at it right now, Marquise Johnson, Joshua Manning, Daniel Blood. You brought in Kevin Coleman. They need to bring some other guys. Blood, potentially, you saw some things you liked today. Joshua Manning couldn't get lined up a couple of times. Again, I mean, it's just some things. Again, kind of contradicting myself here. I don't take a lot from it, but just this is the little bit we've seen of some of these guys. I know some of them have played in their roles this year, but really, I mean, Manning, you see every Saturday. Marquise Johnson, you've seen every Saturday, but in 3 to 4 type roles, secondary type roles. with them taking it on, I don't know. If I'm Missouri, I'm looking for another guy, like a big X guy, if you can compete with that.
They need another guy for sure, but you do look at some of the names they brought in via the transfer portal. Kevin Coleman's going to be one. I also really like that they brought in some guys like Santana Barner from Northern Illinois. They brought in Mose Phillips back end on the defense. Nate Johnson, the defensive end that comes on in from Appalachian State. So Josiah Trotter. They're not barren. They just need to get that other guy. Like, I wonder what they have to do with the running back position, because if they did bring in a couple of dudes, especially when you look at the recruiting class, they have a pretty good overall emphasis on what they're going to do this offseason. They got the kid Marquise Davis from Cleveland, Ohio. They got the kid Brendan Hayward from Scanchi, Texas. They also brought in the guy from ULM. So they have some pieces. Do they have that X factor? Because I do think that you have Jamal Roberts, and I do think that you have Marquise Johnson, and maybe Joshua Manning as a third option is really good for you. But I want that other guy, that X factor, that dude to where I'm like circling. Like when you watch as Marcus Carroll and Nate Noel joined the squad last year out in Como, you're like, oh, damn, those are really talented players. Those are players that are coming from the Sun Belt that dominated, that maybe are going to be difference makers. And they were a good thunder and lightning for Kirby Moore's offense. And they took a lot of pressure off of Brady Cook to have to be the only dude to deliver. And they took a lot of pressure off of Brett Norfleet and Theo Wees and Luther Burden. But also those are guys who have proven over the last few years, we know how talented we are. We know what our potential is. It's kind of hitting a bit of a reset to where 9-3 is still on the table. 8-4, 7-5, 10-2 is not off the table, especially with their schedule. Because I've talked about this a lot, Dave. This is a team that's going to have all three of its games that they lost last year on the road now at home: Alabama, Texas A&M, South Carolina. If you continue to better yourself and put yourself in a good position to where those become closer calls, well, now we are talking about 10-2. Being a reality, 11-1 being a reality, a college football playoff berth, not that far-fetched. A lot of things got to go your way, but it's not off the table. That's all I will say when it comes to that.
Yeah, I'm probably going to go a little lower than on them next year, which I think even people wear the brightest, which sounds crazy, brightest black and gold glasses would say. I mean, I'm looking at the schedule now. I totally forgot. We got the Border War back next year.
That's what I'm saying. We got it back. It's exciting.
That'll be good. Louisiana, I mean, you got South Carolina at home, UMass, bye week, Bama at home, at Auburn, at Vandy, bye, A&M at home, Mississippi State at home, at Oklahoma, at Arkansas. And to be fair to Drink, I mean, again, I think if you won 8 games next year, it's still solid. I mean, next year is technically like a rebuild a little bit. You had to replenish that 2-year class. I mean, to be fair to Brady Cook, he didn't win that job going to 23. It was a competition. Yeah. You kind of had a good run of those 2 guys, those 2 years of that core of that team coming back. That team in 23, 24 had a lot of success. Now a lot of those guys are gone, and that's where you kind of got to replenish here. And this is where I think you see a little bit like, all right, it looked like on the back, like it took his fourth year to get his first winning season. Let's see what he can do again here now that NIL is really settled. And I mean, when Drake got there in 2020, we were talking about a different sport now. It ain't like what it is now. I want to see kind of what they've been doing over there from a financial standpoint, strategy standpoint, because all these guys leave. And it was a phenomenal 2 years. I mean, it was you could probably only say Georgia would probably take that. I mean, again, I know Alabama made a playoff run, but if we're just talking about win total, they're in the top 3 or 4 teams really in the last 2 years of what they've done. So I think next year it's got to be realistic. You're going to go back a little bit, I think. I think you naturally go – there's nothing wrong with that. If you win 8 games next year, yeah, you lost one of your best quarterbacks in program history. You lost one of your best wide receivers in program history and your number 2 guy behind him. You lose a lot. So let's be realistic with the expectations going into next year. I think 8 is a realistic number that I would be fired up about if I was especially if you have Bo coming back in 26.
26, yeah. That would be pretty big. I think the fact that you look right now at this team finishing with 21 wins in 2 years, that speaks incredible volume to the way that Eli Drinkwitz was willing to, number one, relinquish the play calling and actually hire an offensive coordinator to work with Brady Cook. And the fact that a guy like Kirby Moore stuck around for the long haul and he's going to be back in for year 3 is awesome. I think the fact that you were able to bring in and replenish a lot of defensive talent and a defensive coordinator with Blake Baker going down to LSU and Corey Batoon and not really miss a beat speaks incredible volume of the direction of your team. I think the other thing that's really important is that you have a quarterback that wanted to be a Mizzou Tiger, a person that wanted to represent his state, goes out on top. On top of all of that, you also add in the fact that this is a guy who They have a lot of wide receivers that are bought into the culture. They have a lot of players who are from the state that want to be here. It's hard to argue that when you look at the history of Mizzou football, especially in the SEC, this has been one of the better runs we have watched over the last few years. And they're going to have it for a little bit to be able to hold back and say, we know how special this team was. We know how special this unit was for a while. Dave, before we get out of here, let's go ahead and grade the 2024 season for Mizzou, as we've done for every team. I will go first. I give it a B+, maybe even an A-, because of the schedule. You figure that they were at least going to be maybe a 10-win team. They were. They got 10 wins. Now, it took the bowl game to get 10 wins, but you thought maybe they would be a dark horse for the college football playoff with how much returning talent they had, with what they had on the schedule, with who they had the matchups against, how there was a first-year head coach at Texas A&M, and there was a little bit of underwhelmingness, but still, this is Missouri we're talking about. This is not a program known for domination year in and year out, about bettering itself and putting itself ahead of the curve of being in that conversation for a college football playoff. I think that alone gets you to a B+, A-. You got a signature win over Oklahoma. You got a win over an Iowa squad. You closed out the year with a win over a very good Vanderbilt squad in double overtime. You got a win over Arkansas. You won your rivalry. You're in a really, really good spot to say the last 2 years, 21 wins. That's something we can hold our hat on to if we are Eli Drinkwitz and the staff moving forward. And it's going to do numbers for recruiting, and it's going to do numbers for transfer portal. Again, look at the transfer portal ratings and the recruiting rankings this past year. Mizzou ended up finishing with better numbers because of it, and what they showed last season and what they showed this season. So it feels like the future could still be very bright, even if there is a setback in 2025.
I'm going to go B+. I'm going to go B+. 10-win season. Probably best win was today. Off quality of team, I'm probably going to go Iowa. Yeah, other than that, your league play would either be Arkansas. The Auburn game, from a perspective of it, kind of kept your season on board. I think the best game you played was in a loss at South Carolina that I think would beat a lot of teams that day, but you lost. Best win, though, I would go today. So I'm going to go B+ there. Yeah, it looked kind of like when Brady Cook went out. We didn't know how long he was going to be out. He had the foot injury or the ankle injury. Then he had the hand injury against Alabama. It was like, oh, gosh, like this could get 7-5, 8-4 real fast. We never thought it would go like not making a bowl game because the schedule was too easy for it not to get that bad. But you kept the train on the tracks. Again, we talked about it. They didn't lose a game that they would have won without Brady Cook. They almost Oklahoma, but they won the game. So again, you had probably about the season you would have had, though, for the most part, if you had everyone healthy. I think a B+ across the board, back-to-back double-digit win seasons. You mentioned it, Bear, 21 wins in the last 2 years. Phenomenal job by Eli Drinkwitz, kind of getting off the hot seat and turning into a guy that's got some pretty good job security comfortability right now.
And every single offseason that he continues to get to these 10-win markers, he's going to be able to up his ante in annual salary, which, again, is really good. And it's good that there is a stable future and also kind of core in place at a place like Missouri. Because remember, there was a moment where we all thought that maybe Eli Drinkwitz was going to go on down to Florida if the job became available. It feels like that he's locked in. It feels like that he's at least there for another year, if not multiple years. And maybe that's what you need at a place like Mizzou if you want to get to that next level, where you're not going to be a team, and you and I have talked about this many a time, Dave. You may not be a team that is always competing for the college football playoff the way that Georgia will, the way that LSU can, the way that Texas can, the way that Alabama can. But every 3 or 4 years, 9 wins is on the table, 10 wins with the bowl game is on the table. Every 5 years or so, a 10, 11-win season could be in the works. And a guy like Eli Drinkwitz, I think, understands that. It's about building that culture to where it is sustainable, to where he understands where the culture and the committee and the boosters and the NIL collective are all bought in. Hey, we are a team that is meant to be in that realm of every few years competing for a college football playoff berth. They didn't get it this year, but I think there's a lot to build off of this year moving into the long-term future. Maybe not 2025, but 2027, 2028, 2029. That might be another 3-year run that we see 20-plus wins, multiple top 25 finishes in the AP poll, and a really solid foundation in place for Mizzou moving forward, especially with a win against a solid defense like Iowa's.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited just to see them see what this roster looks like for the first time in a new age kind of football. Because again, like I mentioned, a lot of the core guys the last 2 years are going to be gone. Missouri, one of those wild cards going into next year. Right? Yeah. I think inevitably it's fair to say, yeah, you're probably not going to go win 10 games. You just lose too much. That's, I mean, again, you can agree to disagree, Missouri fans. It's not a shot toward you. It's more of just a compliment what you've done the last 2 years. That'll be hard to replicate that for a third year. But again, I think 8-9 wins next year. I think 8 being that realistic goal. I think B+ this year. A good season. Kept it on the tracks when they had every reason with their quarterback and stuff going down to kind of like let go of the rope, and they did. So give Eli Drinkwitz and them credit.
Mizzou sings a sweet song out in Nashville to close out 2024. Let us know in the comments section down below your thoughts on Mizzou's overall season, a win in the Music City Bowl, and what to make of Brady Cook's swan song as he departs Como for the final time. But for today's Shumate, I'm Cole Thompson. Make sure that you like the video, hit the ring notification, and of course, subscribe to the channel because we're breaking down every single SEC bowl game. 3 more tomorrow, starting off at 11 a.m., the ReliaQuest Bowl, Alabama, Michigan. Make sure that you don't miss out on the content. Go ahead and download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on the socials. The link is in the description. Follow Dave at Mock 10 Sports, me at Miss Cole Thompson, and check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. A double-digit win season out for MIZ. For today's Shumate, I'm Cole Thompson. Tiger Nation, we did it. Peace.